everybody, I'm Kitsune Haruri and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing Q&A. Today's questions are brought to you by my patrons and also from Amino. I'm on two different groups on Amino. Furry Amino, which is the general Amino group for furries worldwide. English speaking anyway. I don't know if there's another one in other languages. I'm not that far into Amino. I just do these two. The other one is Ohio Furs Amino, which is for people who are in the general Ohio area. We're not real strict. Yeah, there's a few people who are out of state, maybe who are moving here, who have moved out of here, or just close enough that they join us in our events. Everybody's welcome. The more the merrier. So, to start things off, I'm going to go to Furry Amino, because I had one question on there. And yes, I did ask for questions, because this is the first time I've done a Q&A. So, you know, not anybody's going to be sitting there going, hey, let's ask this person questions. You got to let them know that you're open to answer if you're going to do Q&A. So, the first one is from Paintbrush the Leopard Wolf. Thank you, by the way, for giving me a question. And the question is, how long have you been in the furry fandom? Well, Paintbrush, I'm actually been in somewhere close to the 20-year mark at this point. And I did discuss this in a previous video. Check it out, by the way. It goes into my persona and everything. But I had been doing furry art, furry characters for a long time without even knowing that there was a specific term for it. I just knew that they were anthropomorphic animals, and that's what I like to draw and make stories with. Why? Well, I mean, first of all, they're cute. Second of all, I really, really like things with animals in it. And third of all, it kind of lets you step back a little bit from the human element. Maybe approach things from a different perspective. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons. But I, in general, like to do that kind of thing. And because of a friend of a friend who became a friend, I ended up going to my first furry convention, which was Morphicon in Columbus, Ohio, which is now Anthro, Ohio. And after that first year walking around going, I'm in my element, I found my people, I immediately got into the Artist's Alley, and I've been there ever since. 2020 is the first time, I believe, I have missed this convention since I started going, which sucks. I'm hoping, I'm not holding my breath for this year because it's normally early in the spring and no conventions are happening this year. Not yet. Maybe later in the year. We're still waiting to see. Cross your fingers. But we're waiting to see. Hopefully, and I don't know if they're going to do this or not, but I hope they do because the other cons have. I really, really hope that they go online. But anyway, 20 years roughly. So that should answer your question. And thank you again for that question. Moving on next to Ohio Furs Amino. Okay, Ohio Furs. Now these guys know me, and they're not afraid to challenge me on a question. So, from old Gimp Wolf, how you doing, man? What's the hardest part of the fandom to get accepted into? I'm going to have to say it's really going to depend on who you are, not as in your fame or whatever, but who you are in your personality type, and also, you know, what your local groups are like and how you meet people. In my case, personally, the hardest thing to get accepted into as far as the local furry community was actually having personal friends. And it's not really something I can attribute to the community itself, because there's a lot of people who are close personal friends there. You know, a very welcoming group. We don't have a lot of drama, but when we do have drama, it's for a dang good reason. But for me personally, even though you will see me surrounded by a lot of people, in big groups of people, and I work really well, quote air quotes here, work really well within them. I'm an actual true introvert. You know, a lot of people over this past several months, almost a year now, with quarantine and all of that, found that they were having a lot more trouble dealing with not having people around, even if they were introverts. Now, that doesn't mean you're not an introvert. It's one of those things that have a scale. I personally, though I would like to speak with my friends, don't suffer from being completely alone most of the time. I really, really recharge my batteries by being literally dumped into the middle of the woods and forgotten about for hours on end. That's me. Now, you can still be an introvert and really, really, really need to have your other people there. Maybe you aren't even talking. I know some of you have probably seen the little meme of let's be alone together. Yeah, some introverts are like that. A couple of people in a room doing their own thing, but you're in the room. There's a sense of a presence there. That's all you need. You don't really need to even be interacting, but you do need that presence. My need is very, very limited. Now, that's not to say I don't have very close friends. I have a handful of people that are family to me, and I take that very seriously, and I will bite if I have to protect them. But in all honesty, I do not suffer from being alone at all. I just kind of shut off and do my thing and get real productive. So for me, as far as getting into it was finding actual direct personal friends. And yeah, when you get to know me really well, which I think, yeah, you and Cleophon maybe see that. If I decide you are a friend, you are family. So you've been adopted. You're now part of the Kitsune horde that travels around the countryside causing chaos and anime. So yeah, for me that was it. Now for other people it's going to be a little bit different. Depending, I've got some friends that really, really want to do the art thing, but they're very, very nervous about this. They have anxiety. For them, that may be the harder part. Others, it might be, just going to a con. Conventions can be a pretty big place if you've never been to one before. Now, our local convention is moderate sized now. It's not gigantic. It's comfortable. We still fit into small hotels. But, for somebody who's never been before, that could be pretty overwhelming. Vending. I mean, that becomes a whole different matter of logistics. It's not just personality there. It's also money. It's, knowing how to do certain things. It can be really rough. But, yeah. For each, it's going to be a little bit different, and that's about where it stands on me. Just making my own personal friends. And if you're on my friends list, you're on my friends list. All right, and I've got 2 questions from Cleophon, also on Ohio furs. So for this one, I'm gonna tackle the relatively easy one first. Kind of a short answer, but I'm also gonna say that this one could also lead into possibly a whole video later on. We'll see. So, what would you put in a fursuit first aid kit? I keep a basic sewing kit, a glue gun, markers, and safety pins in mine. And actually, all of those are things that I would keep. And I'm going to expand this a little bit because fursuits I have not done as much with. I'm usually fursuit handler in the aspect of please don't trip and die on a curb when we do the furry walks. Or, just in general, I'm a total con mom. I'm keeping an eye out for everybody in the immediate vicinity, whether I know you or not. And if you need something, I'm likely to have it, and we'll walk up and just go, here you go, and go on about my business. But on the cosplay level, I have done cosplay, I've done competition, and I've also been a cosplay handler rather extensively because I am, if you haven't noticed, I'm a little bit on the older end. I started doing cosplay and cosplay competition way back. Like, further back than me being a furry. And, yeah, learn a few things real quick. Like, there's a very limited source of characters for someone like me. That's not to say you can't cosplay whatever or whoever you like, but when you're competing, you really want something that you're going to be able to pull off. So for me now, I'm not going to be walking around in 60 pounds of armor. It would kill me. Can't do that. But at one time when I was younger and thinner, to be perfectly honest, I was the living spit of Stun Gun Millie from Trigun. So we did that one. That was the cosplay that got us some prizes, and also a new category at SugoiCon for most dangerous. That's a story for another day. But in any case, in a kit for me, and this would also, it probably includes some things for the person wearing the fursuit as well. Though we usually have another person who does that almost exclusively. If you're going to a con and you don't know if that particular person in your group is going to be there, because there's usually one in every group, go ahead and be ready for this. So yes, I would indeed also have that sewing kit. The glue gun versus super glue, because first of all, quick. Second of all, removable later, even for fabric. Yes, you can get it out, but not in a meltable fabric. You got to heat it up. But yeah, that would be a quick fix. Markers, yeah, I could see doing that, particularly if you have painted parts, like in the eye or something, that may flake, which people who are newer to making their fursuits, you may use the wrong paint on the wrong material or any kind of little thing. Can be fixed later, but right now you're at the con and you want to wear your fursuit. Marker. Yeah, that's a very good plan. Also, some airbrushing will come off, but be careful about using marker on fur. Some furs, it's going to smear all over the place. It's going to stain and turn into a different color entirely. Because remember, your inks are not necessarily made up of a base of what you're seeing. Your black ink may have a base of blue, red, brown, what have you, and if it washes out, fades out, it's going to turn into that color. Safety pins, absolutely. And just so you know, I carry safety pins all the time anyway. They're in my purse. Always have safety pins. They are a godsend. These were the greatest invention known to cosplayer. Other things that I would carry. Definitely would have, of course, the things for the cosplayer, fursuiter, such as a bottle of water. Also, and this is one I don't see very often, electrolyte powders. Excuse me, my nose is bothering. Electrolyte powders that you can add to water are a good idea, and they're virtually non-perishable as long as you keep them dry. Because when you are in a fursuit, you are sweating like a marathon. You are going to come out of that fursuit wringing wet even on a cold day. This is why you see fursuiters out in the snow like it's nothing, because to them, oh, it's heaven. Get those little electrolyte powders in there, because sometimes you're going to need to replenish some of the minerals and things that you're losing through your sweat. So have that. And also a super, super long straw, which, one moment. For cosplay and fursuit handling both, particularly if you have somebody who's going to have something enclosing their face, you want the super long straw. Yes, it is that freaking big. This thing is probably like 18 inches long, I think. These are a godsend. And yes, I know right now there's a big thing about plastic straws. You do realize you can wash and reuse these and not throw them away, right? don't chew up and wad up your straw. You can wash it, reuse it. They're good for a really long time. And, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of times the plastic is recyclable. So you can crunch this baby up when it's dead and done for, stick it down in your milk jug, and send it off for recycling so it doesn't cause the problems. Yeah, I know a lot of people are saying use the paper straw. Well, the paper straw is in plastic packaging and often is not real good. They don't survive long. You end up wasting more of them because they are not reusable. Not even in the space of a day, because bacteria builds up in them and you can't clean it out. Wash this. Reuse it. Don't put it in your washing machine though. Your dishwasher will eat it. Don't do it. So, that's another item I would put in. So water, straw. Yeah, sometimes I would use a stapler and tape. I don't know particularly with fursuits, though I could see using the tape if you have like an eye that can't stay in. You can put it on the inside to keep it there. A brush. Every fursuiter should have a brush. That doesn't mean they do. And you can tell who doesn't. Fursuits are made of fur. And every time you move, and every time you sit, and every time you hug, you're starting to cause mats in that fur. And if you don't brush those mats out, it'll eventually start pulling the fur out. Get one of the brushes. If you don't know what kind of brush they use, go to the pet section of your store and find one of those shedding brushes for a dog. It has those really fine needly points. That's what they're using. And if you look real careful, there are a couple of brands that have a little push button on the back to push the fur up off of those little needles to help keep it clean, which also helps you, because if that gets all matted up and gross, you can end up breaking or bending the needles, and then the needles can damage your fursuit. Repair epoxy. And gloves, by the way, if you're going to be using it. I know this is a weird item. And unless you are used to using it, unless you have practiced with it, I would highly recommend not doing it until you have. But go get yourself a little tube of repair epoxy in case somebody has the hard claws and the claw falls out and goes missing, in case somebody has a fang, hard fang, and it falls out and goes missing, or I don't know if you would want to do this unless you are really good at it and you are doing the repair later. Sometimes people will have a resin jaw piece, and if for some reason that should get broken, that can be temporarily repaired with the repair epoxy at the con, but please remember, it will not come out when you do this. So you need to be prepared that once you have access to your rotary tool, sandpaper, paints, and whatever else, that you can go back in and do the full-on repair. Or if you know you can't repair it at all yourself and you know you're going to reorder this from the maker or whoever, okay. The other nifty thing about repair epoxy, which, by the way, there's also repair epoxy is the cheap way of doing it. This you can get at any store anywhere. Walk into Wally World or Meijer or whatever. You also have epoxy sculpt, which works pretty much the same way and gives you more of a work time. It's almost the same stuff, but it is something I myself have used a lot. So it is something I would attempt to do. String, oddly enough. They always say when you're going out, you got to survive in the wilderness, or you're going to win your gaming campaign. You need a rope. Well, you're going to survive the convention and win your cosplay. You need a string. Couple of reasons. One, you may have a situation where something just needs to be tied down and made to behave. By the way, this string can be a string of elastic too, which is I kind of recommend in that direction. The round elastic, a nice big piece of that, have it hanging around. You can also use yarn if you're allergic to latex. Whatever's. Just something. But say you have sleeves that are too long. Well, you can push them up, tie it, fold it down over. Now it fits nicely. You need to help secure, I don't know, a hat to the top of your fursuit head. Put a little string on it. It's not going to really show through the fur much. Useful thing. Or maybe you don't have anywhere to put your badge and you don't have a lanyard that's going to go around the neck of your fursuit, and you really don't want this thing hanging off your fur and possibly pinch the hair out of it. String. There's any number of other things I might include that are specific to the cosplay and or fursuit, and sometimes you just want to play it by ear for that. If I'm going to be stationary and have full access to electricity and a whole table to myself and nothing better to do, I would probably be setting up an entire repair station with a sewing machine and all of that. I've considered doing it. Other people have done it. But for the light and the simple, but oh, one other thing, very important, something to put this stuff in. If you yourself are in some form of costume, see if you can't find something or make something that matches what you're wearing so it doesn't stick out that you're walking around the cosplay first aid kit. Otherwise, if you're just there and you're swag and don't care what people see, I usually carry around a convention bag. You will always see me with a backpack or something at a convention. It not only includes the rescue kit, whatever have you, but also extra snacks, because blood sugar is an issue. I will have things like tissues and wipes. Even before this whole hairy mess that went on, I was carrying wet wipes. There's always a mess, and there's never a napkin. But a wet wipe will clean it all up. It's great. The ones they use for little babies are okay, but they have grown-up ones now that smell better. Sketchbook. Even if you don't stop to draw, here's why. You buy stuff. It's flat. Now you have to carry it around for 8 to 12 hours without damaging it. Slide it in your sketchbook. Not to mention, if you have a sketchbook and your favorite furry artist is there, you can hand it off to them, pay the little bit of cash, and get a sketch in your sketchbook and make a collection. It's a nice, fun thing to have. So anyway, thank you for that question, and now let me find your other one. Okay, so again from Cleothan, and this is actually kind of long, so I may have to summarize a little bit. And Cleothan was asking me if I agree with Hun the Hound's advice on fursuiting in public areas. I did a video, it's been relatively recent, and basically the gist was, for him, it's better to ask forgiveness than permission. And she expressed some concerns, which, by the way, I do have those same concerns. He believed, show up in fursuit and do your thing, and then if they don't want you there, they'll ask you to leave. And then you could at least have some fun. Well, in some cases, if you're at a park or whatever, it's not such a big thing. It wouldn't be a problem, and you're highly unlikely to be asked to leave because it's a public park and you're not really interacting with other people. But when you're doing your fursuiting, whether or not you want to be a representative of anything, you are representing the furry community. Whether or not you want to, whether or not you agree with that, in the eyes of the public, you are a furry, and we are all a furry, and because they're not involved, What they see you do is the representation of all of us. You have to take this into consideration. This is why some fursuiters take it to the extreme of not breaking the magic, which, honestly, guys, if that's how you want to do your fursuiting, that is fine. Or if you want to do poodling, which for those who don't know what that is, it's walking around with maybe just your head on, your hands are free, and that's fine too. We are not paid professionals, and therefore we are not obligated in any way to maintain any magic. Most of us are just doing this for fun. But if you are going to fursuit in a public venue such as a mall, a restaurant, anything where you are walking onto someone else's private property, yes, a business is a private property, you had better be asking first. Don't just barge into somebody's place and start causing chaos. You can actually endanger people with this. You could scare people. Honestly enough, I know fursuiters are adorable. Most of us absolutely love them. Even non-furries love them because, dang, that's cute, or wow, that's impressive. But there are some other people out there as well. And not just young children, but there are some people with anxiety issues, PTSD issues, all sorts of things going on in their lives that you don't know, that you could do harm to by just, oh, here I am, giant animal. Yeah, I know it seems like it would be fun to just surprise people, but, you know, do it in a sensible way. Do it in a considerate way. Okay? Ask first. I mean, I'm pretty sure that if you're just going to be out in your yard, there's no problem at all. Your neighbors may be weird about it. Okay. If they are weird about it, just go, hey, it's costume, dude. No big. It's costume. You wore them for Halloween, I'm sure. In a public park, for the most part, nobody cares what you're wearing as long as you're not lewd. Don't be lewd. Don't be lewd anywhere. Just keep that stuff away. It doesn't belong in other people's faces. They're not consenting. But please, 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 if you're going to go into a place, especially if there's going to be a lot of people where they're not normally wearing costumes, please get permission first. Give these people a heads up. Let them know, hey, I'm going to be coming in. But this is not only for them, but it's also for you, your safety and security. If you go waltzing into a place in the middle of a crowd in this crazy outfit, you might get mobbed. Not necessarily in a negative way. There'd just be so many people going, oh my God, it's so... And they rush you. Or there's a lot of small children, and little children don't know boundaries. You can't explain it to them yet because there's no basis for comparison for them. They're going to come up, they're going to grab and pull and hit and do also, and yes, children will hit you. They will, that tiny little fist, if they decide to hit you, hurts far worse than an adult. There's less surface area. It hurts. Take it from me. I used to do martial arts coaching. Children's punches hurt more. But these little kids will hit you. They will tear at your stuff. They will be covered with everything and wipe it all over you. And there's nobody controlling the crowd because you're going to overwhelm your handler as well if you have one. You better have one. Just please use some good common sense. I get where he's coming from. No argument with Hun. He's good. He's, you know, I know him and his family pretty decently well from the furry walks. Great guy. But I disagree. Please use common sense and courtesy. Because, after all, we want people to see us in a good light so that they're more welcoming toward us. Okay, and that was it for the ones on Amino. Now, oh, and thank you again, Cleven. almost forgot to say thank you. I'm rude. Alright, and from my patrons, I have a question from one of them. I think the other one was a little bit busy. It's okay, I understand. And I also didn't give them much time to answer me. But it's okay. They should be used to me going, hey, let's do a thing. So, this one is from Philip. And his question, which he had to think about a little bit, because he knows too much. Are there any particular cosplay items you have found to be difficult to make? Like a certain type of weapon replica or costume piece? Okay, well, it depends on the time period, and you were there for part of them there. So, items that were difficult to make. Early on, when first starting to do cosplay, I did not know how to sew, actually. Pretty much me sewing started with my older sister getting me a sewing kit for Christmas, saying, here's a straight stitch and a whip stitch, have fun. Because previous to that, I was putting angel costumes and wings and medieval stuff on my Barbies made out of taped together notebook paper. So, with my sewing, I knew how to do hand sewing. I could do soft sculpture, that kind of thing, a little bit of embroidery. And I do not mean difficult embroidery too. I mean really, really simple stuff. I didn't really know how to sew very much. She also found me an old sewing machine, and I worked with that, and then I worked with my belated mother-in-law's sewing machine for a while, what was left there, and basically what it came down to was taking clothing and trying to figure out how it's constructed by turning it inside out and making outfits and costumes from that. In the midst of learning this, I jumped in with all 4 feet like a fool because Jay and I both had the brilliant idea of doing Sailor Moon cosplays one year. That means stretchy lycra fabric. And if you have ever sewn with stretchy lycra fabric and haven't done this stuff before, remember what it's like the first time? It was a pain in the butt. The stuff doesn't want to go where you want it to go. It's going all over the place. I have no idea how to control it, what to do with it. I made 2 leotards. And then the fluffy ruffle skirts that go along with those outfits. Thankfully, I could just buy gloves. Thankfully. So in any case, that initially was the hardest thing I had made. I had done robes and cloaks and whatever else. That wasn't so bad. But those 2 Sailor Moon costumes, oh my god. More recently, and I can't say it's very recent because it's been more than 10 years now, and the poor thing is ready to fall apart, the BFG. If any of you have seen me in my steampunk outfit as Gunny, I carry around a BFG. Double barrel, 60 LEDs, huge thing, wooden case on it, and when I sit it on its rear end, it's as long as I am tall. And I had made it so that at the time I made it, I could carry it one-handed. It had fancy filigree metal feet, and it had all these doodahs and gewgaws and whatnots all over it. It was mostly for looks. But if I'm in the lower parts of the convention center in Columbus with all those LEDs on, I could spotlight people like deer. That was probably the hardest thing for me because, like my mother, I have a bit of difficulty nailing 2 boards together. Even though she's a woodworker. I don't get it. She manages it. I sometimes do. I'm still working my way up. It took a few weeks to get that done, I believe. Sawdust, paint, and everything else all over my living room floor while I'm working on this thing. And me in the middle of it. But I did finally get it done, and I made it so the barrels could be removed. So if I had to ride in a small vehicle, which was rare, but if I had to, I could take those barrels off and make this thing fit. The inside of it was hollowed out to hold my two little battery packs. I have all this massive space, so I could use it for storage as well. Had a big shoulder strap, so I could load that thing up if I wanted to. But it did take me some time, and there was some learning curve, and it's sitting outside my door waiting for dismantle, and it's been waiting for a little while because I just haven't had time, because it finally, after many years of being dragged all over the state and all over Michigan as well, it really just needs to be completely redone. So it's going to be dismantled with honors. And at some point when I have time, I'll redo it. But in the interim, Gunny has gone to the standardized Mavericks. I did always carry them, but now it's almost strictly the Mavericks. And yeah, that one really, it took some effort. I would say probably next in line would be the first suit head that I did, which didn't come out right yet. It's not terribly difficult, but it was time consuming, and also because I'm still learning what I'm doing there. So anyway, guys, that was all the questions that I had. Thank you to all of you who asked questions, and anyone else who would like to ask me a question, please feel free to put them in the comments below, and I'll try and save them up and get them done for the next Q&A question session. Tea with the Kitsune. And anyway, you may ask me questions on Amino. You'll find me there as Kitsune Haruri, both in Furry Amino and Ohio Furs Amino. You can also send questions to me at Steve Fox Latte on Facebook, or you can also just send them here. Just send me a message, make a comment, however you'd like to do. But also, please visit my Patreon. I do have a section in there, the $5 level. You get to make some decisions on what I do on here. $5 and $10 level, as a matter of fact. The $10 level also gets the option, once a month, you may request a sketch from me. I will do them in order as they come in, and as they finish up, I will send them to you. But it's an opportunity to get some free art if you want to do that. Now I'm going to continue that on for probably some time, as right now I have 2 patrons, so I can do that all I like. If it gets a little hairier than that, then I may change it up and offer you something different. But for now, it's a good thing to check out. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, share, and ring the bell. And providing I don't have another trouble with upload like I did in the previous videos, I will have these up for you every Friday. Thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye.